And it is Groundhog Day. I don't know, Wendy, did the groundhog see its shadow in North Carolina?
Oh, I'm in South
Or South
Carolina.
Carolina? So
So,
no.
no, it has not seen its shadow yet. It's the third gray day in a row.
Oh,
So
that's
it's kind of
unusual.
maybe good.
Maybe good. Yeah, and did you get any of the storm that's gone through?
Just rain,
Just
rain.
rain.
We need rain, but
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah, we
enough.
got a little bit of the north end of it, just on the very end tip, and it just came across Lake Erie into Canada, just a little bit. So it's
Yeah,
great. So we are here, Wendy. Thank you so much for coming to join me here live. We
sure.
have Wendy's going to be one of the presenters at our Midwinter Music Fest, Midwinter Music Fest on February 20th.
Yeah.
And Wendy is a professor at University of Music Education at University of South Carolina,
Hmm.
and she's also extraordinary specialist. I won't go into all the background. She just won a teaching award. Um, but she's been with Music for People for a little while now. So could you just say briefly, how did you connect with Music for People, and what's grabbed you?
I actually read about it in the late 80s,
Mm,
early 90s. And I thought, this sounds really cool. I have to do this. But I was involved in my graduate program at Temple University at the time, and I didn't have the money or the means, and there was not the internet like there is now. And so
yeah.
I just kept hearing about it now and then, now and then. And last year, I finally reached a place in my career where I said, I am going to go do Music for People somehow this year. Because I've read the Bill of Rights and I thought, oh, I think I believe that. I know I believe that, but where are the other people who believe these things? And
Very well
so,
hidden.
right. So I did my first weekend last January. It's my first year anniversary, actually.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy anniversary.
Right. That's a new one, right?
Yeah.
And right after that, I came home. I was on cloud nine, and I started trying activities that I learned from Mary. It was in California that weekend.
Right.
Started. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Learning so many wonderful things, just almost too many at one time. But I was hungry for more, and I found out there's a weekend in Montreal. So I did the March weekend and met Irene and her wonderful students up there, and it was more of the same. I was on cloud nine, maybe it was cloud 10. And so then I went to visit my mom in Kansas, and then we know what happened the rest of March, and here we are. And I'm just so grateful for the internet, though it causes us so many headaches. But Music for People has stepped up to the plate and to the challenge and made it available in so many ways to people. And so here we are.
And so what? So you are you now in the MLP? You're in the Musicianship and Leadership Program, which
I'm an
is
improviser and I'm in
awesome.
Module 2.
Awesome. Which is happening right now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. So you found out about it at about the same time I started, right in the early '90s. So
Okay.
and I get, yeah, it was kind of hard to find at some points. But so what about, how does this connect, all the way Music for People works and its philosophy? How does it connect to your philosophy? What was it like? Oh my gosh, this is it. I think I believe it. How can what about it
Yeah, yeah.
is
So
magical?
when I started my graduate study in 1987 at Temple, and I went there to study music learning theory with my mentor, Edwin Gordon, and he had come up with this theory about how humans learn when they learn music. I was very interested in that. Prior to that, I had done all the levels of ORF teacher development and a level of Kodai, and always loved movement, but I needed a way to organize it. And none of those ways was the whole thing for me, and I don't know that anything ever will be. But music learning theory offered this new way, and I got a graduate assistantship. So off I went. And Gordon was saying we really need to teach music to very young children. We need to do ages 3 to 5. So they'd been doing that. And then he said we need to do 18 months to 3 years old. Then when I was there, he wrote this book and said we really need to do infants. So that's where I did my dissertation. And when I was documenting, oh, and Gordon also said, don't use any words when you teach. Just use like nonsense syllables. So that fits right in with so much. But I still, at this time, I didn't really know what Music for People did. So I've been using nonsense syllables to work with infants, and especially toddlers. That's where I've done most of my research. And they love nonsense syllables. And they love when you play with dynamics and tempos, and they love when you use a purposeful silence. So I always bum bum ba da da yum bum ba da da yum bum ba da 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 dum bum, and I do that several times. Yum bum ba da da dum bum ba da da yum bum ba da 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 da, and a baby will go ha la la la. They'll coo right there on the last pitch because it's in there, you know. And so in my work with toddlers, I realized I can't teach them anything. When you try to teach a toddler something, it's absolutely frustrating for you and the toddler. You can't have a group of toddlers sit in a circle. They just don't do that. And so you read, I over the years, I've just taken, it's so easy to create an environment for toddlers and play with them, and then use purposeful silences, and then play with what they do and turn it into music. If a baby goes, well, I might go, you know.
Exactly.
So that fits right in with Music for People babble language, and I love babble language. So I've been leading university students, undergraduates and graduate students in classes designed as music methods classes for early childhood. But again, I can't really teach anybody how to do, you can't teach somebody how to play. I guess you can. I don't know. I can't. But if I can get you to do some noises, some songs, and some rhythm chants, and then that begin to believe that there are no wrong notes, and begin to stop judging yourself. Now, I have to practice these things too, because every day is a new challenge, but a new joy.
And it's like, so what you said really pulls into a lot of what music is, like Jim Oshinsky's book, Return to Child. I mean,
I have 2 copies of
it. Yeah. I'll tell you, when I first met David, it was in the early 90s at a retreat center in British Columbia. And there were only 8 or 9 of us in the group for a whole week, like all day long.
Oh, wow.
And normally, you go to a workshop and you normally say, hi, my name is, this is the instrument I play, blah, blah, blah. None of that. And this is what blew me away. We walked in, he smiled, he said, hi, my name's David Darling. And that is where we started.
That's amazing.
And that was an immediate, okay, this is going to be something different. And then one of the key things he told me, and you'll appreciate this one, and we saw it in action at a concert we did, was that there were little children in the concert at the end of it. And, we're doing our thing, and this little toddler, barely walking, starts making sound. And he stopped and went right to her and engaged her and played back and went with her. And
yes.
it just took everyone there. It was extraordinary. And so what we do with Music for People is that kind of thing, really, with adults. And so it is very much, and it's this, and we did it's I know we have a little bit too much fun. So
right.
So listen, I want to give you this is a quote I pulled, that a quote of yours, Wendy.
Oh my.
And I know. And I this is just kind of sets this up, and I think for any teachers who are, or educators of any sort, online classroom, whatever, young, old, this is really kind of a good thinker. and I quote, "I have taken a vow to stop trying to teach anybody anything. When you," in quotes, "teach music, you are the leader who enables the followers to do music by leading them to develop and use their music potentials to the best of their abilities." End quote.
Yeah, I believe that. And it's a new challenge every day and every minute. And maybe it never ends. You know, we've
Say more
been
about
so,
that.
well, our society is so focused on the achievements of, like, how can we get our kids to this and to that? And then in music, like, how can I get my kid in the choir? And how can I get my kid to all state this or all whatever comes before that and all. But then I see the beautiful things that some Music for People members are doing with elders,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, whoa, why do we ever stop? And I see such this gap of, like, the kids who come through the university, you know, what do they do after marching band? What are they? There's no marching band when you're 20, when you're 30, you know, maybe, but they still want to do music. And then it seems like they're waiting for somebody else to give them the permission to do it. So maybe the music educator, maybe the teacher is the one who helps them see that there are so many more ways to do music and realize your potential. And we don't know when it ends.
Yeah, I don't think
So
it ever does. Yeah.
no, but we haven't really explored all that.
No, I'm thinking that maybe in this past year we've had, in some ways, opportunities to do that more. Firstly, because all of my musician friends immediately had no work.
Yeah.
All of their
Oh.
gigs were canceled and are still canceled and will be, you know, and they're not. So they've collectively all had to come up with different ways to make music or connect or figure it out. And, you know, we know Zoom is not the best way. I'm watching music educators in Ontario who are trying to, you know, they don't have a budget and they've got to do it online, and Zoom doesn't really work on a Google Meet or whatever it is because, you know, it's not the platform. And they are, I mean, the creativity that's being asked of them
Mm-hmm.
is extraordinary. And yet in some way we seem to have it in Music for People kind of built in.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I know for teachers is the fear or the trying something new, or, you know, no wrong notes. How do you approach no wrong notes as you connect the university kids to their child babbler, to that being some of the, they'll babble, but it's not really a, you know, real from the inside. It's all, okay, I'll babble, blah, blah. It's still in their head. How do you make that connection with your kids?
Well, I'm working on it now. I will, as it's all kind of new online, especially. I will say, prior to COVID, we were able to go into a children's center for where we have infants through age 5, and we were able to go there on a weekly basis here at the university. And if I could get the students to just trust me, to don't even worry about doing a whole lot of, now we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. Just go in and play. Music and movement are your toys, and silence. Use purposeful silences. Just trust me, for one 10-minute session. And usually I make it stretch into 20. They come out of there, they're smiling, all their worries have gone away. It's just amazing to see. And I think it's that social music interaction that it's the first thing in Music for People. You're accepted, you socially interact, you honor silence, you use silence as your friend, and just those things. What if we could encourage all persons of all ages? Why don't we stand in the supermarket line, and instead of going, why don't we just look at somebody and go, and then somebody does something back, right? And even if you have a mask on, that's okay, because you don't have to understand the words.
Yeah, exactly.
What if we did that
Have you
for
tried
one
it?
day? No, I need it. I do it with, if there's a baby, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But why can't I do that to an adult? Why is that not accepted?
We may
Maybe.
never know the answer to that. But what you're saying about doing that babbling to an adult, and you know this from, and this is a really key thing. I will teach parents, and when I come up with little kids, I'll hear them kind of making noise. It could be, ah, it could be some kind of scream, and I'll just sing it right back to them. And their parents are just kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
But then they look at me, and I've got engagement, and I can move and play around with them. And you get a whole, and the parents see something different.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if when your students went into that care and they were just for 10 minutes, they were kind of like, I wonder it like an older cousin or a babysitter. What if they went in, hey, you've got music, you're going to babies. They would do something different than, now we're going to do this. And I'm wondering, did they give some reflection back about what that experience was like and what it is they actually, what did they have to shift in order to get into that play state?
I never asked them about what they had to shift. I have to admit that. I always ask them, what'd you feel like? What'd you notice that the children did? And what do you want to do more of next time? Those are my 3 reflections. Yeah. And so usually at the beginning they notice I was really nervous, I was really scared, I was really uptight. I noticed that the children just stared at me. And they think that that's a bad thing for some reason. I'm thinking that's the most honorable thing of all because they're listening. And I tell them listening is the most important job of all musicians, and you're a musician. And so is that baby. And so is the teacher that's changing diapers. And so at first they're so scared and frustrated, but then I think they just like to get down on the floor and play and get a grade for it.
Yeah, exactly.
When they realize, oh my gosh, I'm getting an A for playing. Go.
And really all we have to do, and I think this is true for these workshops, so people coming in, I imagine when you went to your first MFP workshop, did you feel a little...
I was nervous, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Why am I nervous? But then I observed that, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know Mary. I met her at some place where she told me to meet her and get in a car with her and drive for 3 hours. And then before that, she said, oh, you need to meet somebody else in the airport, and you need to Uber with this person you don't know to meet me. So it's like, I don't know, but it feels like I ought to do this. So, yeah, but it was just being thrown in a new situation and taking away those formalities that we're so used to. But then it just felt like home the whole weekend. I really didn't want to leave. And everyone at the workshop was so accepting and non-judgmental and encouraging of everyone. It just seems so right.
Specialize in that. It's been, it has been. And everybody finds their own way into their own place in the group. I mean, even for me, it took me a few sessions, even though I drove 10 hours, 4 times a week, 4 times a year for 4 years.
Wow.
10 hours down on a Friday, 10 hours back on a Sunday.
Oh.
And it took me several sessions before I kind of dropped enough of the classical ego, personality, whatever fear thing that was, and sank into really who I was. I could remember the physical feeling of that one weekend. And I think we all have to go through that. Sometimes it happens, and I had a great time on the weekend. Phenomenally, loved it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, we go back and do it again. There's always, and so it's an honoring of where we are in that moment.
Yeah, I'm working through that now as this professor who has a class of undergraduates who most of them are not music majors, and then a class where they are, and they're going to end up student teaching. And what's jumbling with me is that I don't really, music education needs to be in public schools, but what if it were more like music for people? What if children came into the music classroom breathing, checking their own pulse, finding their own pulse, finding those of others, humming, just doing these things rather than, what if they knew themselves as musicians from the get-go? I think it would change everything.
Yeah.
So,
And so their job right now is to create that bridge in themselves, you know, through what you're teaching, or through your training, through the Music for People training.
yeah.
It is to create that bridge, because to create that bridge for yourself. How do I come into my own space and check my pulse and breathe and release? How do I take that, you know, into my, expand that? And I think, you know, just reflect, I think you're going to see that over the few years. I mean, you've just started with this and we're online. But that's what a phenomenal question to be.
I'm having to shift, like, because then I have to get them familiar with the state standards and how they write a lesson plan that meets the state standards.
Yep.
And I really don't like writing lesson plans, but because
I remember that. Yeah.
You know how, but it's okay. I'm working out. Today we had an amazing experience in one of my classes where we took the counting.
Oh, yep.
Let's did
do
that.
A little bit of that. So let's
Sure.
play with that. Okay.
Sure.
So this is for those that you know, you can do this with us, and we're going to use it's based on an Indian counting game, and you're going to use each of the knuckles as one, and you go to the base, to the base, Now with Zoom, it's going to be, we're going to have this weird mix, but we just count, and we'll see how this plays out. And as we come to the last beat of 16, come to, and on 1 we keep da ticka da tick da ticka ticka da ticka da ticka ticka da ticka da da ga da. Wendy, here you go.
Da 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 ga da 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 ga bong ga di ga da ga ta 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 ga ta ta ga ta 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 ga da da ga ru ga ga da bong ga ga da da ga
ga da da da, and we'll release that. So that is one of the most fun games, and you can do this. And you say, I do this walking down the road. And I use my feet as a bit.
Oh yeah.
And the idea is, you find, when I do this with kids or university students, is find all the sounds you've never made before. You know, find how many new sounds can you make with that. That's a phenomenal. That's a great game. I'm so glad you're doing that.
Yeah, we did it, and they came up with this pattern that they did, and then they arranged themselves in the tiles on the Zoom. They based it on their names and the syllables in their names.
Oh, cool.
I recorded it. It's really cool. And at the end, I said, well, what do you guys think about that? And this one student said, that was so much fun. And I said, well, why was it so much fun? I need to know why. He said, because we got to do it all ourselves. And I went, how can I facilitate that more and get them where they need to be to meet the state standards?
Yeah, it's a both and thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was so much fun for me to watch them do that today.
Right. And so on our Midwinter Music Fest, Wendy, you've got a session going. Tell us just briefly a bit about what you're going to be offering.
Well, I think what I'm going to offer.
We're going to make a plan and then let it go.
And then let it go. We've done so many different things, and I can do video clips of snippets, so that might give people ideas and show. It might not be as participatory as some, because I think my job is to help folks see how I'm incorporating it into the university, so it might inspire some ideas. So we'll at least have some brainstorming sessions based on these video clips, and we'll do some pre-K, because that's our educational outreach is to pre-K, and then we have elementary kids that we work with, and then up through the undergraduates and some grad students. So it's all the levels.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I have one student who's writing her thesis, her master's thesis, based on music for people activities that she's adapted for her public school classroom. So
Oh, awesome. Is
she's
she coming
also
to
in the
workshop?
program.
She's
Yeah,
in the
she'll be
program,
there.
so she's
Yeah.
coming. Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much. This has been so much fun to actually meet you.
Yes.
We've seen each other
Yeah.
here and there. And to hear about it's really some phenomenal work you're doing. I'm so glad you're doing it. I was wanting it to happen when I was teaching back in the 90s. I left a number of years ago. It was because I was done
Yeah.
with that. But it's so good to see. And education has changed a lot in the past 25 years as far as music education and improvisation and from the inside out music making.
Yeah.
When I was doing these workshops in the 90s, it was like a foreign world, and now it's like let's go. It's
Yeah.
so encouraging. All right,
Wow.
so Wendy, thank you very much. I'll
Thank
let you
you.
get back to yours, and we'll see you on the 20th.
On the 20th. Thank
And
you.
you can register at musicforpeople.org, and we'll see you then.
All
Thanks.
right. Take
Bye.
care. You're welcome. Bye-bye.